Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Dr. Downey, and today I just wanted to discuss a few topics that have crossed my mind. This is going to be a rather informal video, but I just want to open up a discussion about these topics which I'm going to introduce to you. The first one being tapering down steroids when coming off a cycle. So essentially, instead of just going off cold turkey, you would taper the dose of the steroid down until you start to PCT. And the thought process behind this is that if you have a lower dose of the steroid, the suppression should be less, and this would assist with recovery when coming to the PCT. And I have had a client bring this topic up with me, and he was referencing how one would taper with glucocorticoids or typical steroids like cortisol. You wouldn't just go off cold turkey, you taper with them if you've been using them for a while. The goal of that would be to try avoid an adrenal crisis. And he asked, why can't we do the same with anabolic steroids? Since they are both steroids, aren't they? The difference, however, is that most anabolic steroids, or at least the ones that are used on a cycle, tend to be injectables, and they tend to have very long half-lives. And I say very long in comparison to something like prednisone. If we go back to our corticosteroid example, prednisone has a half-life of about 12 hours or 24 hours. I can't remember, but either way, it's drastically shorter than a few days. So that is the first problem we encounter when hypothesizing whether or not we can taper with steroids. And we have a study that shows that at doses from 500 milligrams to 125 milligrams of testosterone injected weekly, all of them had the same amount of suppression. So tapering doesn't work if the half-life of the drug is too long. And there isn't any certain cutoff, but one would assume if the half-life is longer than 24 hours, it's probably going to be a bit more difficult to taper with the drug. If we look at drugs with shorter acting half-lives, especially if we go back in time to Dianabol, tapering used to be done quite often with athletes. And in a case report where an athlete was using Dianabol for 2 years straight, I think at 100 milligrams a day or something ridiculous like that, when they started tapering the dose of Dianabol down, LH and FSH started to recover. Dianabol would be a better example because its half-life is so short. Furthermore, if we look at studies comparing testosterone propionate to testosterone enanthate, which I have compared in the past, if you look at my other videos on testosterone propionate, you will see that testosterone propionate doesn't seem to be as suppressive, and the suppressive effects last maximum about 3 days. The suppressive effects also depend on the dose, which would then support that something like testosterone propionate actually could be tapered. Obviously, there's no data on this. The only data that we do have is on oral steroids, which tend to have a shorter half-life. But let's hypothetically say that you can taper. Although I myself have not tried this with any of my clients, but taking all of this information that we now know and trying to come with a possible way of tapering off steroids, it would suggest that you would need to swap to a compound with a shorter acting half-life. So you could swap from the testosterone enanthate to testosterone propionate. And so how would you then taper with testosterone propionate? Well, then you would first start by increasing the time to injection. So let's say if you were injecting testosterone propionate every other day, you would extend it by another day. And then from there, you could start lowering the dose of the testosterone propionate by half and further extending the injection frequency. Because if you're injecting too often, the suppressive effects would probably still remain. And we're just assuming that because of the fact that something like testosterone enanthate is suppressive no matter what the dose is. So if you were to use testosterone propionate and you were to use it at a frequency less than its half-life, then it would probably still be suppressive. So you need to extend the injection frequency. But that would be my approach to tapering steroids, and hypothetically it should work. And even shorter acting testosterone would work better if you were to use something like testosterone suspension or oral testosterone tablets, and you taper with that. You might say, why do you need to taper? It's purely because you don't want to experience the uncomfortable effects of having been suppressed and now no longer having an exogenous compound in you like testosterone, and suddenly your body isn't producing testosterone and you're not injecting testosterone, so you have very low levels, and this itself can come with side effects. And by tapering, you're essentially still keeping the testosterone in your body. However, it would be at lower dosages, technically still there, and it would allow you to recover while still having this exogenous compound in your body. The problem with this is, again, there isn't much research, and it's going to extend your cycle quite dramatically because you're going to need a few weeks to taper. But I want to hear your thoughts about that. But lastly, I want to touch on Anavar and how a lot of people state that Anavar is metabolized by the kidneys. I don't know why I was thinking about this, but it was just bothering me slightly. As far as I'm aware, and as far as the research says, Anavar is not metabolized by the kidneys. It is excreted by the kidneys. More than 99% of it is excreted by the kidneys. This is different to metabolism, and this is why people say it's better on the liver, because more of it is metabolized by the kidneys. That's not true. It still passes through the liver, however, it's a lot more resistant to metabolism than other compounds, i.e., when they injected IV oxandrolone or Anavar into a participant and then looked at the urine metabolites, quite a significant chunk of the Anavar that was given was found in the urine unchanged, more so than other compounds. But there was an issue to that study in that they injected the oxandrolone IV. The reason for this is because that's how they could get the labeled oxandrolone into the human body. But the problem with doing it IV is it kind of passes first-pass metabolism. And first-pass metabolism is where a lot of the active drug is broken down. But again, there is quite a lot of research to suggest that Anavar is quite resistant to metabolism by the liver. And what this would mean is that it's not going to have those toxic byproducts and utilize all of the liver's antioxidants and disrupt the polarity of hepatocyte membranes, so it's probably not going to produce drastic changes to one's liver enzymes. And that's probably the reason why it's safer than other compounds on the liver. It still passes through the liver though. This doesn't mean that it's metabolized by the kidneys by any means. So I just wanted to clear that up in case there was any confusion. Perhaps I'm wrong. I tried looking into this and this is what the data has led me to, but let me know of your thoughts. And yeah, those were just two topics I wanted to discuss informally with you guys, and I want to know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.